Hi everyone! I want to show you something. Now what we're looking at right now is an old plugin by Izotope, and it's called Vinyl. Now Vinyl has been around for quite some time now. Now very recently, and when I say recently I mean a week ago or a few days ago or something like that, the good people at Izotope decided that this plugin was in desperate need of a little overhaul. So behold the new Izotope Vinyl.
Supercy.
Now before we continue, let me say that this plugin is absolutely free to download, so you don't need any money for it. Now I will leave a link in the description. That link will take you to this webpage, and right up here you can see the download now button. Now I have to say it is a little bit different to download products from Izotope than it is some other products. It may seem to be a little bit more complicated, but it's not really. It all comes down to downloading the so-called product portal, which looks like this. Now you can use the product portal to download stuff from Izotope, to register them, to update them. You know, it's actually a bit more convenient. So I would say just press that button. You'll get some guided instructions, so don't worry, everything will be explained to you. Now once you've downloaded it, again, this is what it looks like. But what is it? So what is Izotope Vinyl? Now Izotope Vinyl is a so-called lo-fi plugin.
Percy.
Yeah.
What is a lo-fi plugin?
Well, most of you will probably already know what a lo-fi plugin is, but for those of you that don't, Wikipedia, please help us out. Lo-fi, short for low fidelity, is a music or production quality in which elements usually regarded as imperfections of a recording or performance are audible. Did you get that? Did it make sense to you? So it basically comes down to this. So back in the olden days, before we had computers, in music recording we had to deal with all kinds of imperfections. So we had to deal with all kinds of crackles and noise and dust, etc., etc. Nowadays, we don't have that problem anymore. Now nowadays, recording music with computers allows to get a perfect sound, extremely clean. Now some people went nostalgic on us and they said, you know what, back in the days, yes, we had some crackles, we had some noise, etc., but it did give the sound a little bit of character. If the sound is too clean, it just sounds too clinical, it's too perfect, it's not alive, it's, you know what I mean? Know what I mean? So in came lo-fi plugins. Kind of reminds me of that skier that is skiing, but is acting like he cannot ski. Ironically, it takes a very well-trained skier to act like he cannot ski. So similarly with lo-fi plugins, we're actually using some of the latest technology to make it seem like we're using equipment with some imperfections. So that is what lo-fi plugins do.
Very well explained, Percy.
Thanks. Alright, so what we have here is a little beat that I created. We're gonna unleash Izotope's Vinyl on it in a minute, but let's first listen to what this beat sounds like, shall we? Okay, you get the idea. Alright, now I've added an instance of Vinyl on the master bus, and let's just see what we can do with it. So let's first start playing that beat again. Now this is with Vinyl deactivated, so let's first activate it. And immediately you can hear a huge difference. Now let's go over the interface real quickly. Now the first thing you'll notice is an emulation or a simulation of a record spinning with some imperfections that go with it. Now just above of the record you can see that we can switch eras. So for example, if we choose the 1930s, again, you can hear a huge difference from, for example, the 1970s. Okay, now down here we can set the RPM, so we can either speed up the record or slow it down. And that, of course, will have an effect on the effects. So for example, as you can imagine, if there is a scratch on a record, if that record is spinning fast, you will hear that scratch more often than when the record is spinning slow. Makes sense, right? Now next to that we have spin down. Now the spin down effect sounds something like this. So there's that. Now next to that we have lo-fi, and lo-fi sounds like this. So this kind of simulates or emulates some older samplers. So some of the older samplers, they were able to sample, but not perfectly. And it sounded kind of like this. All right? Okay, next to that we have wear, which is kind of self-explanatory. You know, if a record is worn down, it will sound a bit different than when it's new. And with this, you can kind of set the age of a record or how much it's been used, basically. Now up here we have some mechanical interference we can add. Not really sure how to explain this, but it sounds something like this. Okay, now next to that we have some electrical interference we can add, which sounds like this. And I guess that's a much more familiar sound to most of us. Okay, now here, this slider over here is the dust slider, which you're actually already hearing right now. This sets the amount of dust on the record. And down here, the gain knob, with this you can set how loud the dust is coming through the mix. Now next to that we have a similar situation going on with scratch. So with this slider you can set the amount of scratches on the record. And again, with the gain knob, you can set how loud those scratches are. Now finally to the right, we have the warp settings. Now the warp setting adds some pitch variations to the sound. Now, for those of you that are old enough to remember the cassette tapes, those cassette tapes, if they were really old, sometimes when you listen to them, you know, you would hear some pitch variations, and that would definitely be a sound of them being worn down. Now this warp setting kind of emulates something similar, and it sounds kind of like this. So that's basically it. So that's the entire interface. So it's a pretty simple concept, but if you apply it with some creativity, you can really have some fun with it. Now with this particular beat, I think I am going to apply vinyl, but I am going to do it very subtly. Subtly? Is that a word? Yeah? It's going to be very subtle. So I'm only going to apply it to the pad right here. So let me solo that. So this is without, and this is with. Yes. So again, it's really subtle, but for me it kind of works. So I guess that's about it for now. Don't think there's a lot more I can say about this product. I think it's time for you to just go check it out for yourself. Again, it's free to download, so why not? Have fun with it. And yeah, I think I'm gonna stop talking now. Thanks for watching.